A response video to a really poor Gratex video, but that's all you get from this guy now. Modern Mystic says he's improved his videos since he's started drinking and smoking again, but yeah, no, sorry. This is just awful. 20 minutes of just straw man nonsense. Completely not even close to the subject. So he drags this whole thing out, talking about his magnificent pain tolerance and his love for the fight as he's, challenging the weather on his bicycle in comparison to some child who's upset because they're cold in the same conditions. And he's using that as an example that somehow life is good. That's all. I mean, somehow that defends all of existence on planet Earth. Somehow, and as if it has something to do with objective and subjective, in the sense that because two people are interpreting the environment differently, because they're coming at it from a different place, of course, right? I mean, there's sometimes I'm cold and it's 85 degrees, and there's sometimes when I'm really hot and it's 65 degrees. So, yeah, so what? No one's arguing that there's a standard temperature comfort zone. Show me the antinatalist video. Show me one video where one antinatalist argues there's an absolute truth about how you should feel at certain temperatures. At 72 degrees you should feel exactly this, and if you feel anything else, you've broken objective truth. Show me the antinatalist video where we've said chocolate ice cream is superior to vanilla ice cream. Show me that video. Oh, that's right, you can't show me that video because it hasn't been made, because that argument hasn't been made by anybody. Nobody is saying that your subjective reactions to the world, your emotional feelings, your physical sensations, your headache has to be exactly a certain kind of headache or it's not a headache. There's an objective way to have a headache. Nobody's making that argument that everybody should enjoy being a fat slob. Yeah, no one's, I've never argued that there's an objective truth to these things. The argument is about a risk equation primarily, and fundamentally, there's this catch of consciousness that we are the creator of need. I've said this over and over and over. We create need. Our existence, there is no need in the universe saying we need to exist. There's no thing that's sensing an absence. Even if there could be something that would sense it, there's no way it could sense it in anything but a subjectively silly way. They could only sense it like I like cupcakes or I like chocolate chip cookies. They could only sense it in some very personal way, like a tree sloth senses the female tree sloth and thinks she's really hot. That's the only way the female tree sloth becomes meaningful to the universe, is because something else desires it. So without that desire, there is no need for the female tree sloth. She doesn't function in the universe in any way. She doesn't satisfy the universe in any way. She doesn't satisfy any need that pre-exists her existence in any way, except as a manifestation of subjective hunger in the machine you create that is hungry. Duh. That's the arguments being made here. So I mean, I can go through the layers of all the arguments for antinatalism, going through the asymmetry, the imposition, but what you're talking about here is there's an objective truth about certain, like there's objective truth about the risk of a nuclear power plant melting down. And you can calculate these things. It's like a floodplain, like you could be in a 50-year floodplain. There's a certain economics that tells you, okay, if you know that every 50 years there's going to be a catastrophic 10-foot flood, then you have to make a rational choice. Is this the right place to build a house? I mean, will the destruction of the house be somehow compensated for by the years of productive use you might get out of it? And it's just a truth. There's a truth to the economics. And the argument being made here is there's an objective truth that it's our psychology that creates the perception of need or value, and there is no intrinsic value in the things we're valuing except for the one thing that does have value, and that is preventing or compensating for, ameliorating, ceasing, diminishing the suffering of sentient beings. That's a positive, that's a guaranteed, almost guaranteed, positive thing to do. Is if you can reduce how bad somebody's headache is, you've done a good thing. If you can reduce their suffering or their displeasure or their discomfort of a sentient being, it's intrinsically, in and of itself, a good thing. It's not necessarily good relative to some other better use. If you spent $10,000 to, compensate for somebody's headache, that might not be the best use of $10,000, because $10,000 applied somewhere else might eliminate 10 headaches or 500 headaches or something worse than headaches, obviously. And this is the thing we're talking about, having the objective value, is that we can understand there are negatives. With exactly how heavy they are or how dense they are, we might not know that. And that we can be sure of. We know the bad is bad. The question is does the good have any real value, or is it just the illusionary Cheeto that we're chasing, your gratification of an ambition or a contrived desire inside your psychology? Alright, well anyway, so this patronizing pile of crap creates a straw man argument that somehow subjectivists, versus objectivists, means that the objectivists are telling them dogmatically that they must think cupcakes are better than, I don't know, corn fritters. Nobody's making that argument. They can't quote it anywhere, so it's just so freaking dishonest. I mean, you're just a horrible liar, fella. Come on, you've been in this argument long enough to know nobody's arguing this subjective crap you're making arguments about. So this is just lying. There's nothing else going on here. And yeah, you're not winning that. You're not going to get away with it in the sense that, yeah, I'm going to call you on it, and I'm going to call all these people who sit there and not fucking recognize it for what it is. Because it's just that. It's just so dishonest. I'm incredibly dishonest. We can know things about this mechanism. His argument would be that we couldn't even figure out whether a car is fuel efficient. Of course we can. There's some basic premises about the universe we can know. Our senses are fundamentally, there's no reason to believe they aren't reliable in how they glean information from the world. If there was any special information to glean, we'd probably be able to glean it because it would have had evolutionary advantage. An organism that can access the secret power, or the force, is going to access it because, yeah, there's real advantage to knowing what's going to happen or having great intuitions or all this other mumbo-jumbo. But it doesn't exist. But the senses we do have chronicle a world. Okay, we perceive it. And we do two things with the information. One part of our brain stores the information as information, and one part of our brain reacts to it, smells it, so to speak, sees if it has imposes upon it a character of comforting or discomforting, nice color, pretty color, ugly color. Our brain does this to every word, every concept. It has both an emotional reaction and a stored logical recognition of associations. And so words do become important because words are supposed to be, technically, should have explicit meaning. And it's the fudging of words that has created a lot of the problem here. The whole idea of life as being defined as what? And not as what it really is, which is an out-of-control replication of a molecule controlled by very few forces of any integrity, no forces of integrity actually. They're all crude forces that have controlled the reproduction of the molecule. A gladiator war is a clear, mostly explicit, metaphorical, but yet definitive explanation for what takes place. Every one of us is just an experiment being forced into an arena to battle for survival, genetically survival. The only thing that DNA, over time, the only thing that's going to matter is the fact that it has to make a copy of itself, or a copy of its near relative. So anyway, I'll play a little time. I'll play some of it, but there's no point. You'll see there's no point very quickly. It's a drony, dull-witted, insulting, stupid video. I mean, really, a kid could do better than this. This is a garbage piece of crap video pretending like this guy's on some high point, like he's on some Mount Knowledge, okay, looking over at all the little dumb ants. And it's a joke, because he's the one who doesn't know himself, who won't even admit that everything all his ambitions, all his notions are just that, notions of value. And he's saying they have integrity. Why? Because they're his, period. And he can't figure that out. And yet he'll preach to the world. Disgusting.
It's different.
Can't even figure out how to get a decent microphone. Yeah, burp. It's typical.
And that's the subjectivity of it. And that's what dogmatists don't get. The whole subjectivity of it.
Yeah, dogmatist. So that's another term he uses, right? And shouldn't that have an explicit meaning? So go ahead, point to the dogma. Explain to me how I have inaccurately portrayed any of these fundamental truth premises. How they're way outside the bounds of reasonable logical conclusions. Evolution, consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction. Mock them all you want, but you haven't argued against any of them, and you haven't added anything to that list. So again, what do you have? You have nothing. If you can't argue dogma, then I guess you've been thoroughly defeated by it. Then I guess it's not dogma. The fact is, it's a better argument. And you just can't admit that. It's always the person who can't make the better argument that just cries dogma.
Of experience. They just can't wrap their heads around that. Because it's too complex.
Oh, wait, see, it's just too complex for us to figure out the distinction between our preferences regarding dessert foods and whether nuclear power plants explode or melt down. Yeah, it's too complex. We can't make those no, it's you who can't make those distinctions. Yeah, that's right. It's you who can't make distinctions between what's in the realm of reasonable argument, definition, description, and what's outside the realm of reasonable. And it's outside the realm of reasonable to claim that your notion that gratexoron needs to exist in the universe, that's outside the realm of reasonable. There's no logic you could apply to explain to me how the universe needs gratexoron in it. There's nothing. There's no evidence of this need. There's no round hole for the square peg of gratexoron to be smashed through.
A thing for them to consider. They want to say that temperature X is bad.
Again, so this is the lie, right? So he's saying we're arguing that the temperature is the problem. And no, we're not arguing that. I've said it explicitly over and over. You know, if you've watched any of these videos, over and over again. It's not what you want that we're describing. We're describing the want. All right? It's not what makes you feel bad. We don't care what makes you feel bad. What makes anything on this planet feel bad? It just doesn't matter. We're just recognizing that feeling bad is bad. That's all. It's not complicated. We're just acknowledging that there's good and bad states of conscious existence. And that it's better to have less of the bad states and more of the less bad states. I'm not going to call them good states because that's sort of cheating the argument, because a lot of our good states are really just relief from bad states.
Everybody should feel the same about temperature X.
There, so that's the lie. That's just a grotesque lie. When? Where? Point to one quote. One fucking quote, Flabby. Come on, you stupid drunken pig. One fucking quote of somebody arguing that everybody should think temperature X is cold or hot. You won't find that. Ugh, you're just such a disgusting slob.
But everybody has different reactions to temperature X.
Yeah, duh. And again, who cares? It's not. The only thing that matters is whether their reaction is positive or negative. That's all that matters. the fact that they have different, the fact that say one woman liked being raped, there was one woman on earth who loved being raped, that doesn't mean rape is good because one woman likes it. That gives you no reason to presume all the other women like being raped. So again, it's just useless information. Again, who cares? It just doesn't matter what makes people feel bad. The only thing that matters is they feel bad. You don't sit there and if this was any animal experiment, you wouldn't sit there and try to worry about whether all the rats were feeling the same thing in some sort of experiment. You'd worry just whether they were in a bad state or a positive state. You wouldn't care whether they were happy because they were eating fake cheese. You'd say, good, they're happy. Excellent. Very good experiment.
Right now, at 11 o'clock at night, I feel overclothed. I feel warm.
Oh, so here he goes again. I mean, it's just more of this now. I feel. This is philosophy, retard. We're not talking about what you feel as if your feelings are genuine expressions of the real character of the world. It's not about how you feel about life, or how you feel about the universe, or how you feel about existence. It's about how you think about it. What logic can you apply to the circumstance? And you're applying no reason, no logic. You're just talking like an infant and saying, I want, I feel. You're just having this isn't even an intellectual tantrum. It's just an emotional tantrum. Alright, enough already. We'll just do a couple of these comments and be done with this shit. So Das Spook, who, fuck him. I mean, I'm just so sick of this shit. But whatever. YouTube antennas have hijacked the philosophical conversation on YouTube in a large way. Yeah, well, what do you want to make the philosophical conversation on YouTube into? That's right. I guess we've prevented the atheists from talking about their spirituality and their leprechauns and their pretend ambitions for the human race to sail through space and go on sailing expeditions. Like the human race would do that, as 6 individuals in a capsule who probably will kill each other eventually. Yeah, that's the human race, is 6 people. Whatever. The ground that could be covered if we simply started alternative conversation would be great. Yeah, go ahead and try. Again, what are you going to talk about? Oh, that's right, you're going to talk about fantasies. You're going to talk about fables, about leprechauns and boogeymen and bullshit. You're just going to reinvent your God in some other form. Okay, God isn't this stupid, idiotic, preachy, kiss my hand, kiss my ring Godfather kind of thing. No, God is Mother Fat Gaia with big bubbly breasts that come bubbling out of the earth and you can rub on their nipples and shit. Right? You're just going to talk crap. You're just going to invent another God to give you purpose. Ugh, disgusting. Alright. Yet they are sort of like a black hole, period. Yeah, whatever. Okay, you can say it's black. It's okay with me. That's right, the truth is a little bit black. That's right, because nothing made it to be candy. Yeah, there's no creative forces out there that said, oh yeah, let's make life. No, that's not the way it got here. It didn't get here on purpose, and so it ain't made to be suitable for consumption. It's just not. It's not made to be reasonable, shithead. It's not made by a force that knows reasonable from unreasonable. If they took your point seriously, we could move on to all sorts of dialogue about the universe and the strange differences we all have. Yeah, whatever. I don't even know if the differences are all that strange. I think there's just 2 kinds of people, right? People living on delusions and hope, and people who are going to realize, hey, wait a minute, this is a little bit serious. I see some serious shit going on here. I'm going to think about what the hell this is going on here. This idea of a nuclear power plant, yeah, I'm going to give it some thought. And I'm not just going to say yes or no because I get $5 off my, whatever, my Cracker Jacks. Yeah, that's right. There's going to be people who take life seriously and people who just want to fluff on through it based on their silly notions and silly ambitions and say there's something valuable about that. I can just sense it. The universe needs me. Yeah. Yeah, they're really deep thinkers. I argue cognition versus denotation. Okay, cognotation. Whatever. So you're arguing word distinctions again, right? So you just want to play word games as if words themselves are not conceptually broken. Like ideally, words, if you're going to do logic, like mathematics, words would have a consistent values. They would have consistent meanings. We wouldn't have alternative definitions. All right? And the fact is, our languages are feeble. They're poorly constructed because they were constructed by ignorant people, and they constructed them badly and threw a lot of bogus words into our vocabulary. And a lot of these words are used in a context, Mother Nature, to be a description of life and all this kind of stuff. These are not the accurate metaphors, and so there's a lot of prejudice built into our jargon. And that's so what? You want to have an argument about prejudice? Because that's all you're going to find if you analyze language. There is no, the inconsistencies in language are all negative things. They're all error code. It's all stuff that shouldn't be there. If we had any respect at all for logic, we would insist that we have consistent definitions. Anyway, you argue value subjective versus objective nature. Bunches of us have come to them, they hear not. Bunches of us, you've come to me with, what? Expressions of your psychosis. I saw a UFO. Okay, well, what do you want me to say? Okay, sorry, no sale. I don't live for your visions of UFOs, okay? I'm sorry you saw a UFO. I'm sorry you think it's real. I can't do much for you. We live on different planets now. You live in delusiona, and I live still in the real world where UFOs aren't floating around the room. So, yeah, we really don't have much to talk about then. If you're going to take yourself seriously, your delusion seriously, I can't have a conversation with you about your magical little beasties, your leprechauns. You got to take the leprechaun story someplace else because it's not worthy of conversation. So, sorry, goodbye. Pretty much, Jay has made a video response and it's talking faster than I am in this video. Yeah, because you're really whatever you are in this video. It's 20 minutes of just droney, the hardest 20 minutes I think I've experienced on YouTube. But even still, it's just the same stuff. Pleasure is good, pain is bad. Well, I don't even know if he says pleasure is good. Again, he's saying relieving pain is definitely good, and because it usually does create pleasure, so that's a win. Whether ambition is good, that's another question, right? Ambition or desire. If these things are functionally, in the end, good. They're the things that get us to build houses in 20-year flood zones. Totally unrealistic. Let's put a house here. Okay, yeah, so what? It's going to flood in 20 years. Who cares? 20 years. Yeah, 20 years could be tomorrow, but we'll just ignore the truth and the facts, and we'll live on hope and nonsense. Brilliant. Pleasure is good, pain is bad. It's as if they didn't even make this video. Of course you didn't. This video has nothing to do with the nature of suffering. You're attempting to argue that because you enjoyed being in the cold, riding your bicycle in the cold, that somehow it's absolutely a good now. There is no such thing as suffering. That nobody could suffer doing that reasonably. It would not be reasonable for somebody to be in pain. You're arguing somehow that it all goes away, that migraine headaches are just a delusion of somebody's brain, that their brain cancer is just a delusion. If they find it unpleasant and revolting and disgusting and horrific and they think it's not worth 1,000,000 years of bliss to experience an hour of this horror, that somehow they're delusionary. Well, fuck you. You're crazy. The YouTube anti-nihilist, oh, this is due in the morning, she is just too whacked. The YouTube have hijacked the philosophical conversation. She's quoting Das Buch. Only it's a pseudo-philosophy. So she's doing this again. Alright? How dare you? I mean, really, how dare you? From what credential do you call my philosophy a pseudo-philosophy? Based on what? Again, you haven't argued a single quote from anyone. If you think somebody's philosophy is pseudo, then you should be able to point out where it's wrong. You should be able to identify, oh, well, there's where it's wrong. Okay, it's not a gladiator war. Well, point it out. Show me where it isn't. Show me where it isn't. Consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction, bitch. Show me where that isn't the key function Oh, you won't be able to do any of that. You lying, slandering cunt. God damn. They share this question with the religious. They share this question with the religious. Does life have meaning for the universe? Well, no, they've never even asked that. No, and that is such a grotesque lie. Where has any antinatalist said the universe is a feeling, thinking thing that needs life to be purposeful? That's not the argument. The argument is a simple argument, though, is that we are the ones that create all the need. We are not preventing a rape in the universe. We are not solving a problem the universe has, like it has an itch somewhere and we're scratching it. That's the argument being made, that there is no mission statement. There's no fire to put out, right? So now we're asking the question, if there's no emergency to go fix, if there's no broken to fix, why are you driving this fire truck at 500 miles an hour down the road? And throwing a bunch of victims off as you do it, or wiping them out? How do you justify victims when there's no rescue? That's the argument, bitch. Jesus. They answer no. So let's extinguish life because extinguish again. No, let's quit giving creators carte blanche. God players, assholes like you who think you have some sort of divine right, because you didn't pass a test, did you? No. DNA says I can, so you do it. That is all the right you need, is the fact that you're physically capable. So if a man is physically capable of raping a woman, he should have the right to do it, right? Because it's his judgment, it's the right thing to do. I need it, she can spare it, I'll take it, right? That's okay, that's good, solid reasoning. No, I'm sorry. Fail. First, let's extinguish all life because living things can suffer. Well, that's the question, right? Okay, let's not build nuclear power plants because they can melt down. Well, that seems logical, right? Yeah, well, if they're going to melt down, then you probably shouldn't build them. Yeah, that's called reasoning. That's called logic. And the same kind of equation can be placed on life. Does life suitably accomplish something? Does it produce enough energy to justify the risk we're imposing on the people who live next door to the fucking thing? And you're saying, yeah, I don't care. Make the damn thing out of a cardboard box. Let's have a cardboard box nuclear power plant, placed on the most ecologically sensitive place in the world because your hope is strong enough. Hope alone is all you need. Fuck. Deluded retard. First, that is a silly question that is a non-question. Well, again, it's a lie that you even say somebody's asking that question. What does life mean to the universe? No one's asking that question. We're saying, what does life accomplish in the universe? What is its function? And its function is replication for the sake of replication, which is called circular justification. Okay? That you got to do better than that. You got to bring a justification from someplace else. You can't self-justify. When you self-justify, you're likely going to be flawed in your justification. Life has meaning for the living beings themselves. Well, duh. No one's arguing that. No one's arguing that silly, fucktarded humans have silly, fucktarded ambitions. What we're arguing is that when they pretend to be pseudo-philosophers, when they pretend to be philosophers, they're supposed to be doing a little better than that. They're supposed to be stepping out of their own desire and ambition and start to get with the program of reality discussions. Not discussions about what they subjectively are desperate for, what they're afraid of, what they're horny for. That's not philosophy, bitch. Okay, why do we have children? Well, here we go. That's the question, right? Why do you have children? Because that's what life is in general. Well, there you go. That's just too brilliant, right? Because the DNA molecule says so. You've just said, I'm acquiescing to a mechanical function of a molecule. I've got this whole big giant brain, billions of neurons, and that's the best you can do is just sit there and bow to a molecule. You haven't done anything else here. That's not a rational argument, because that's what it does. Living things replicate, so I will replicate. Like a microbe, like a mosquito, like a maggot, like a whatever. I will just do what all the other dumb animals are doing. Because that's what smart animals should do. Exactly what the dumb animals do. The ones without a brain, yes, we should act just like a microbe. So we're back to bacteria with brains. You haven't evolved a goddamn minute bit. You're just using your brain as a scheming tool for your function, for your biology. You're owned by your stomach and your skanky cunt. Anyway, because that's what life is in general. But we have intelligence. It tells us life is worth it. Oh, explain to me how intelligence says that. By what rational, logical statement you can make that sits there and explains to me how there's anything intelligent in procreating. Sorry, I've asked for the paragraph, none of you have written it. One paragraph, explain it to me and don't use the word I want or I need. And explain to me the function of having kids. There's no function besides your ego, your need, your gratification, period. It's a fucking, it's no better than an act of masturbation where you masturbate radioactive material and impose it on somebody else. Impose risk on somebody else. It's disgusting to call it, but we have intelligence. It tells us life is worth it. Again, what logic tells you life is worth it? What logic? There's no logic that says that. There's only your ambition, your ego, your insufferable, preposterous self-image, glorification. You think you're vital to the universe. You think you are. You think you're accomplishing a whole lot more than the non-existent Martian would be, or the non-existent Venetian, or the non-existent Moonican, who you haven't missed at all in your entire existence. Yet you think you're special. And you call that intelligence. Sorry. No, not even close. Not even close. So whatever. Fuck you. And you and you and you. I hope you get exactly what you deserve. Yeah, really.